Mrs. Baird's bread is not actually prevented from raising the price of their bread, but larger bakeries such as Manor Bread in Dallas are controlled by the federal government. So indirectly, Mrs. Baird's and other smaller bakeries are prevented from raising prices because of direct competition. Vernon Baird, who took me on a tour of their plant in Fort Worth, said the situation is critical, mainly because of the current rise in prices of grain due to the grain sale to Russia and other foreign countries.
Since the middle of June, the price of flour has gone up about $2.25 a hundred this past week.
How does that affect you directly in making bread?
Very directly, in that the flour is the major ingredient in a loaf of bread.
How long can you wait before you receive some relief? Can you operate 6 months or a year this way?
No, not without being at a loss. And as I said a moment ago, according to the information that was stated at this meeting in Washington the first of this week, that there's, out of a group of 350 independent bakers in the country, over 50% of them would be in a loss by the 1st of January. So this situation is indeed critical. And
Baird says the Price Control Board has heard an appeal from the bakery industry as a whole, but they turned down the appeal, saying that they could only act on specific cases that involve individual companies. Baird agrees with the statement made by Steve Vasecki, Executive Vice President of the Campbell Taggart Baking Company in Dallas. He said that U.S. bakers are facing financial disaster. Many baking companies will soon go bankrupt. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth. Delta Airlines has put its screening personnel and devices at the entrance to its concourse, so not only passengers but those seeing off and meeting flights go through security. Delta jumped the gun, beginning intensified security now. Every airline and airport has to do the same or comparable measures by January 5th.
Right now, I think we have two strikes against us. We're going to continue to pursue the legal avenues at our disposal through the city attorney's office as far as the legality of the federal government telling the local government what it has to do in relation to a so-called security or safety matters or a security tax.
Now, prior to the last special session, there was a boy between the ages of 10 and 17.
What do you need? All right.
Okay, and we're going to talk about basically the same thing we talked about.
You describe the plan. To keep it as close to the population of the legislature.
This number 2 district in here, is that a temp 2 jury? Now Roswell is in my district, he's in your district. So, yeah, it's a natural boundary line because his is in the south side. It gets cut off at the turn. I am.
In the daytime, it's a pretty good place. You're an old mountain climbing out.
The charges against 21-year-old Mrs. Sharon Scott and 18-year-old Denise Atkins were for disturbing the peace, but defense attorney E. Bryce Cunningham tried to convince the jury the charges were unfounded. He attempted to prove there was no disturbance in connection with the city council incident. Cunningham also said the defendants could not have disrupted the council meeting since, in his judgment, the council was not yet in session when the two women and their group occupied the council seats. But prosecutor Jim Wells argued the women were disrupting the council because their group refused to move when asked to do so by city authorities. The all-white jury deliberated for about 15 minutes before returning a verdict of guilty against the two women. They received the maximum fine of $200 each. Today's case was argued in the court of Municipal Judge William Bennison. The trials for the other 11 defendants will be held within the next month. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
What would you say it's sold at? 3,000?
Our contention is that responsible planning for the future of Arlington should involve planning for a better way of life for the citizens, not necessarily planning for how much traffic you can move through the city of Arlington at the highest rate of speed possible through residential areas. And this basically is what the Wilbur Smith and Associates proposal does at this time.
Praying that we would actually get the invitation, because I knew of a lot of the competition that was against us. And as it turns out, my prayer was answered. And I just say, praise the Lord, and I'm excited and glad that we do get to go.
Well, I certainly believe that North Texas State has a brighter future in long range. It will take North Texas a while to catch up with Southern Methodist, but there's no question in my mind, being a state university and the potential growth and the academic prestige and whatever you want to talk about, a long-range program, that North Texas certainly has the brightest future.
Coach, do you anticipate any of the SMU players following you to North Texas?
Actually, I do not. I do not anticipate any, and I certainly will not contact any of these youngsters directly. But as I've stated before, if some of them show up on campus, I will notify the SMU officials. But whether they remain or not, it's up to the youngster.
Are you going to be looking forward to playing SMU in the future?
Well, at this time, I don't look forward to playing SMU in the future. We play them in a year from now, not on this immediate schedule, but the following year. And with the personnel that remains at SMU and will still be intact at SMU 2 years from now, no, I don't relish the idea of playing SMU at all. But perhaps a year from now, I have a different feeling, because we intend on working very hard at North Texas State, and we will rebuild the program just as quickly as possible.
Coach, you said someday North Texas will be stronger in football than SMU. You hold a grudge at all?
No, I do not. In fact, I cherish my association with SMU. It's a very rich experience. I'm a much better man as a person and as a coach than when I took over at SMU 11 years ago. I left the school much stronger, particularly in the athletic program, than I found it, and I feel like it's been a very beneficial experience for both. I have some great friends at SMU, affiliated and associated with SMU. I left a great group of young athletes at SMU, so really everything in regards to SMU is a plus factor, and I even will say this, that my dismissal, as my wife said, was a blessing in disguise, because I think, being a Christian gentleman that I am, that I think the good Lord has something better in store for me, and obviously He's led me to North Texas State, and everything is go.
Well, it may be the season to be jolly from where you stand, but for those employed by the U.S. Postal Service, 'tis the season of a paper landslide. While Dallas Postal Officer in charge Roy Fredericks was telling Channel 8's Judi Hanna this morning that everything is fine and there are no real problems, other personnel of the department were telling me that problems do indeed exist. Postal Workers Union President Al Vandervoort told me that Dallas-bound mail is being sent as far away as Houston for processing because the Dallas office cannot handle the load. Critics within the Postal Service blame delays on cost-cutting for budgetary purposes and a desire to show a profit this year after more than $1 million overrun locally last year. Bob McGowan is the president of the Special Delivery Craft, and he has his own name for the organization. So which way is the mail going? As Mr. Fredericks says, according to Hoyle, or as some of his employees say, much delayed. We decided to run our own test to find out. I have a couple of letters here. You'll note behind me is the terminal annex. About 200 yards in that direction behind the camera is the WFAA TV studio. I've addressed this letter to myself at that location over there. I'll mail it, see how long it takes to get it. The second letter I've addressed to myself at my home in a Dallas suburb. I'll mail it, see how long it takes to get that one. Oh, the third one, that's my American Express statement. And if it doesn't get there in time, I'll hear about it. This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
There are some folks in Dallas that resent the band of shaved-head, strangely garbed devotees of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Among those are merchants and downtown office workers who complained about the chanting, dancing, and passing out of literature on the streets. In fact, 4 Hare Krishna members are to appear in municipal court on December 27th to answer charges of demonstrating in the streets without a permit. The American Civil Liberties Union is handling their case. They've successfully done so in several cities across the country. Dallas's center is in an old church in Near East Dallas. David Lieberman and Roger Baldwin took me on a quick tour of the temple, and we talked about their life, which they told me is devoted to the glorification of the Supreme Ruler. I arrived during lunchtime, and Roger explained the process.
The purpose of our existence is to just take care of the demands of the body, that of eating and sleeping and mating and defending quickly, and then use the rest of our valuable time to become God conscious. So one might see the films and see that we're eating on the floor and say, oh, how misfortunate, these people didn't have a nice table to eat on. But actually, this is recommended in the scriptures for a very simple lifestyle. If, however, if you want to take some food which has been offered to Krishna off a table, that's perfectly all right.
Why do you separate the women from the men?
In the age that we're living in, one of the greatest impediments for becoming God conscious is the attraction between male and female. So in the beginning stages, the children and those who are not yet married, we recommend them to stay separate so they can focus their mind on their studies.
Part of their daily routine is boarding a van and heading downtown with musical instruments, literature, and incense. The purpose is not to raise money. They're financed by retail distribution of incense. David Lieberman explained the reason for the downtown activity.
We have scriptural authority for our activities. In this age, people are not so much interested in spiritual life or self-realization, so we go out to where they are to try to engage them in glorifying the Lord and chanting process and so forth, reading the books. And therefore, because it is scripturally authorized, it is also constitutionally protected. In this age, people are not so much interested in spiritual life. They're not so much interested in self-realization. I think this time of year, the Christmas time, this is particularly evident that the Christmas spirit is, there's no mention of it, but the newspapers are filled with advertising for so many material products, and these type of things are being claimed to provide happiness and peace of mind, but actually the real meaning of Christmas, the real meaning of Krishna consciousness is love of God. We have no grievance with the merchants. We say this: if we are hurting their business, let them provide records to prove it.
What do you think about these Hare Krishna people? Do they bother you?
They don't bother me.
Do you mind if they're on the streets dancing?
Not in the least, as long as they don't try to influence me.
I don't think they ought to be dressed like that out on the street.
Well, everybody has an opinion, so do these people. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judi Hanna.
And you will represent the state of Texas on January 20th. read the release of his body, the woman Rommie, was born as the son of Krishna, celebrated by the name of Judi. Because he was begotten by Lord Krishna directly, he was captivated by his father's beauty. Maya body could understand.
How effective either the city of Dallas can be or other mayors can be. I'm glad that we're the forerunner and we're the innovator in this direction, though.
Like the old sergeant, I have some good news and some bad news. First, the good. Strict security measures are beginning to go into effect to reduce your chances of being hijacked. Now the bad. You can no longer run in at the last minute to catch a flight. Delta's Dallas station manager, John Brinkley, told me how it works.
Everyone who passes this point is screened for any kind of metal or weapon that might be used in hijacking an airplane.
All right, now notice this table here. They're checking things that are being carried and all of that.
Yes, sir. All articles such as carry-on luggage, packages, hand luggage, and all articles are being checked.
Can they expect, like, Christmas packages to be unwrapped?
Yes, sir. At this point, all packages have to be opened and inspected.
What is the purpose now of having this security for the whole concourse rather than at each gate?
The theory behind this is by setting it up at the entrance to the concourse, we sterilize the whole concourse. Thereby, being once past this point, the people are free to move about, board airplanes, and pretty well do anything they please within the confines of the concourse itself.
The persons going through the security checks here get the same searches or same inspections that they would get at the individual gate. But the total system is better because even friends of those going on airlines are checked. And January 5th, all airlines will have to tighten up their security measures according to regulations from the federal government. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at Love Field.
The only indication we have at this time, until we can further get into the investigation, is that the impact could have created an explosion had the wings been full of gasoline, and it would have saturated the area. And I feel like that we could have discovered the gasoline had it been full. I believe that they were low on gas. That's just a speculation on my part.
Now, of course, all of us are aware of the breaking news at this point.
This may not be your best day for doing a story on parks, but this park is a little different. In case you don't recognize it in the mist, this is Lee Park on Turtle Creek Boulevard. Something else you might miss in looking around, hippies. Surely you'll recall that a little over a year ago, the police department ran the hippie element out of Stone Place Mall downtown. And as it turned out, they all congregated in one of the beauty spots of near North Dallas, Lee Park, and the Turtle Creek Bottoms. They're not here today. And come to think of it, they haven't been here for some time. Today, for one thing, is an anniversary. It is the first anniversary of a Parks Department curfew on Lee Park, saying that people cannot be in this park after midnight or before 6 a.m. Channel 8 News on the move.
Eventually, there will be trails through scenic sections virtually all the way around Fort Worth. We found surveyors Jack Bell and Tony Marino of the Fort Worth Park and Recreation Department working this afternoon on the first stretch between Marine Creek Park and Rodeo Park on the northwest side near 28th and Main. That's in Skeet Richardson's county precinct. James Toll of the Parks Department laid out the plans for the project, which hopefully will be opened in the spring.
We're currently laying in a 6.5-mile hike and bike trail which begins at Marine Creek Lake and goes south through Buck Sampson Park, south along city-owned land along Marine Creek, through Lincoln Park, south to Rodeo Park, through the Rodeo Stockyards area, and terminates at the Trinity River.
How long will this be ultimately, all the trails around? Have you gotten the planning that far yet?
The trails that the county is cooperating with us on total approximately 16.5 miles.
Skeet, you'll, I suppose, be involved in this at some point in time. Are you equipped to do this kind of thing?
Well, I think so. We've talked with Margaret Rimmer and Jess Johnson, and they have promised us that the city council will work with us. And our road crews have the equipment and we have the type of material. As far as how much one's going to do and how much the other's going to do, that's just a matter of getting together and deciding. But we're ready to move on it over here in this north side area, and we hope to have this completed very soon.
And as soon as you get it completed, I'll race you.
Okay.
Okay. As we walked back toward our cars, Skeet said he wished he had thought to invite that bike-riding mayor from Dallas over to join us in our race. So, Wes, mark it down on your calendar for about mid-March. I'll send you a note to remind you. Jerry Taft, Channel 8 News, somewhere on the trail.
statistics for
so that there could not be any misunderstanding, so that all of the rights of a child to be protected. Juvenile courts of this county have required that each and every child have a lawyer, each and every child have a guardian, have a light appointed for each and every hearing that we have.
We're not interested in that. What we're interested in is the proper representation from each district.
Okay. Dr. Conrad has already said that he thought 3 minority districts would be sufficient. On your plan here, you have 4. And he said it would take a little gerrymandering to get the 4 districts. Do you think that the group has done this to get the 4th district?
No, I don't.
How did you come about with this plan?
We followed precinct lines. Where we couldn't follow precinct line, we followed census lines.
The curfew didn't do it. They tested that in the courts. But this park that used to be standing room only is now deserted, except for one Parks Department employee walking around picking up trash. The statue of Robert E. Lee stands here wet in the mist and virtually unassaulted. Where have all the hippies gone? One Parks Department officer told me this morning that he didn't know, but he was certainly hoping that it was just a passing fad and that they weren't congregating somewhere else in town and have yet to be located.
In about a month, these barricades are to be removed to allow opening of this new bridge, which is about over a mile long, stretching from Jefferson Boulevard and Oak Cliff to Market Street in downtown Dallas. When this bridge is open, the old Houston Street Viaduct over there will be closed for a few months, so some work can be done on it. Then it will become one-way, 4 lanes of traffic from downtown Dallas into Oak Cliff, while this new bridge will be 4 lanes, one-way, from Oak Cliff into downtown Dallas. Traffic officials feel this will greatly help the flow of traffic, especially during the rush hours. Actually, the construction is already pretty well finished on this bridge. There's some painting to be done in the underneath part, also the painting here on top. Otherwise, it's pretty well finished. In fact, even the lights are already in place. So it certainly should be ready to use beginning sometime in January. This bridge cost $4 million, and it's the first one built by local governments that meets the specifications for the Trinity Barge Canal. In other words, this bridge will be 52 feet above the water if the Trinity is ever made into a navigation channel. I guess that those who will be most pleased with having this bridge open will be those who ride in the 25,000 to 30,000 vehicles a day that's estimated to use it. But we at Channel 8 have kind of a special feeling for this bridge, too. That's because it took away part of our parking lot for its right-of-way. But I guess that's progress. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Fort Worth Police and 17 other law enforcement agencies in Tarrant County are checking driver's licenses at various points during the Christmas-New Year holidays. Checkpoints such as this one are held at random locations primarily to remind people there's a lot of traffic on the roads during the holiday period.
The officers in their checking will be asking for the cooperation of everybody, but they will be out there looking for people who may be drinking, driving, or committing other violations and making it hazardous for people who want to use the streets properly.
In the past, Tarrant County fatalities in the month of December have been lower than, say, other months of the year. Has this been attributed to this work during the holidays?
We can't take credit for it, but this operation we know hasn't hurt. And since it does seem to be some reason why Tarrant County has a reduction when the rest of the nation and the state has an increase in accidents and fatalities, then there must be something that we're doing in Tarrant County that is right.